Good afternoon. I'm Joanne Wong, Director of Corporate Services at the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. Thank you so much for taking the time to participate in our How to Do Business with Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Rhode Island. So today from their team, we have Doris De Los Santos and Mike Matarisi, who are going to explain the procurement process and their supplier diversity program at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Rhode Island. So just a few housekeeping items before we go ahead and get started. We are recording the session and it will be up on our YouTube page. You'll also get a copy of this presentation at the conclusion of the event, and there will be plenty of time for questions. So go ahead and just hold your questions until the end. We'll be using the Q&A box as well as the raise hand function so you can ask your questions directly. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Doris and Mike.
Apologies, I was having some audio issues here. My name is Doris De Los Santos, and I'm so pleased to be joined today by Mike Matarisi. And we are really grateful for this opportunity provided by GNEMSCC. I wanted to first start out by keeping front and center part of the why. At Blue Cross and Blue Shield, our mission is to improve the health and well-being by leading access to high quality, affordable, and equitable care. Blue Cross and Blue Shield is the largest medical plan in Rhode Island, servicing about 500,000 of the 1.2 residents in the state. We have presence across our 39 cities and towns, and we have been operating since 1939. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Rhode Island, while owned and operated independently from the Blues that are across the nation, we are connected through the association. And so while we conduct our procurement and sourcing independently from each other, and Mike will go deeper into that space, it is important to know that there are efforts and strategies and spaces and some categories where the association go, so to speak, to bat on the field on behalf of a larger number of Blues in the community. We can move to the next one. And so so that everyone listening understand, supplier diversity as a formal business strategy within Blue Cross and Blue Shield is a rather new business initiative. We wanted to call out the information on this slide because we want you to understand that Blue Cross DNA is imprinted by our diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging strategies. And part of the reason why we have been so successful in the year and a half or so that we have formalized this strategy with supplier diversity, it is because of the success that we have had for so many years in the DEI and belonging space. The majority of our C-suite is made up of females. We have a high number of associates, as we call each other internally in the company, that provides information on diversity, equity, and inclusion domains. And I'm not planning to read every single data point on that slide, but suffice to know that Blue Cross and Blue Shield believe in providing opportunities to a diverse group of people in the company, that our board is very diverse as well, and that we believe in social responsibility, and we have a presence of investment philanthropically in so many domains within the community, precisely to make sure that our members and our people in Rhode Island and beyond are living healthy lives. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, who is going to continue with the presentation.
Hi, thanks, Doris. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Joanne. So I am Mike Matarisi. I'm the director of the strategic sourcing team here at Blue Cross Rhode Island. I wanted to go over a couple things with you. One is what we purchase and what our spend profile looks like here. So here's a list of some of the things that we purchase. It's definitely not all. But what we do here is we look to purchase services generally that are going to provide a top-notch experience, either directly or indirectly, for our members and or our providers. This is all done with the goal of obviously that member experience, but also to help drive that mission statement that Doris shared a couple slides earlier. So you'll see some things that are not industry specific here, right? Advertising, IT costs. We obviously have large spends in those spaces, but we also have several more niche requirements, and something maybe like a grocery delivery benefit that we'll offer to our Medicare population is something that we may look for in the market. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So what are we looking for? Obviously, fit for that service. There's a need that our business identifies. They come to the sourcing team to say, hey, how do I solve for that business problem? So we want to find obviously a good fit to solve that problem, but there's more to it there. It can't just be the fit. It can't just be price, right? There's other quality and risk elements that we try to address as well. So what we look for besides the fit is a demonstrated track record. For example, with that vendor, we're looking for a vendor that is compliant. I don't think that's a surprise. Financial stability and a commitment to quality, right? Because we want to pass that kind of commitment along to our members. These different aspects that we look at help us ensure that we're getting not only the right product at the right time, but also have an expectation that it'll continue to service at that high level. We are also, being a healthcare company, we are subject to a lot of regulatory demands as well too. So part of this is to ensure that we're meeting those guidelines that are set either by the federal government or by the state of Rhode Island. We can go ahead and get to the next slide. Okay. So how can you be ready to bid on a service here at Blue Cross Rhode Island? So we have a tool, Jagger, where we ask our vendors to come and register. It allows for us to have visibility into the vendor base and understand what's potentially available there. It also is a requirement for contracting. So if you're already registered and we have the right information in our system, it just greases the wheels a little bit more and helps us get a leg up on that contracting process. So in that registration process, there's a couple requirements, couple asks for information in there. It's like a survey about to fill out a profile for the vendor. Any certificates, W-9, insurance, those are different data elements that we're looking to collect up front. We go through a process with IRS and several other reporting agencies to make sure that the information is valid. And then we look to engage with the vendors to help us solve for some of these business problems. And we'll probably look to engage with an NDA to ensure that we can have fruitful conversations about how do we solve the problem. Why don't we go ahead and jump to the next slide. So how do we participate in an event? What are we expecting of our vendors? Obviously being competitive and understanding the marketplace that they're in is going to be important. If you're competing against another vendor and you're totally off the mark, it makes it harder for us for you to win the business, right? We want to have open channels of communication, make sure that we can, not everything will be totally clear, but we want to make sure it is. And the best way to do that is to stay in communication. I won't read through all these different elements, but we just want to make sure we stay in touch and you provide the best information possible to justify why you can solve that problem for Blue Cross. At the end of it too, right, even if it's not the right fit for you or it's not something you feel that you can bid on, it's still good to have that communication. I can't participate because of A, B, and C. Again, we want to deepen relationships, and regrets are just as important as intent to bid. We can go ahead to the next slide. Oh, I think that's it. So I'm going to pass it back to Doris, and happy to answer any and all questions when we come back at the end. Thank you. Go ahead, Doris.
Yes, thank you, Mike. In the next several slides, we are going to go a little bit deeper into our supplier diversity strategy. And we want to make sure that the listeners, the entrepreneurs that are connected, and the folks that are part of this conversation today see for what it is at Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Rhode Island, and from the C-suite down to middle management, and up and down the company. We truly believe that there is a power behind ongoing diversity that is going to power the future of our enterprise. And so because of that is that about a year and 3 months ago, I joined the company, and I'm the first person to occupy this position. And it's because Blue Cross and Blue Shield sees the need to diversify the supply chain, because we understand the value, the multiple levels of value that this brings to the company. Joanne, we can go to the next one. And so we have set some goals, because we also believe that if you don't set goals and if you don't measure goals, then it doesn't happen, right? And in our mission within our supplier diversity program is to increase our procurement of products and services, some of which Mike mentioned in that list that was in the prior slide. We are intending to procure, to increase our spend with companies that are part of what we call the 5 certified groups, which are minority-owned, women-owned, LGBTQ+-owned, people with disability, veteran-owned, and then we have a subset of areas that are sort of governed by the Small Business Administration that has to do more with low and moderate income. And so we are seeking intentionally ways in which we engage with these diverse companies. And the goals, part of the goals that we have for 2023 is to increase our diverse vendors in the system by 22. We are also looking to increase the spend by 6%. And we are partaking in those 6 different certifications. And so what this means is that we are setting a target. We are making that target known, and we are constantly measuring how the spend is tracking internally by categories, by division, to make sure that we are creating these opportunities in this space to allow us to reach in that goal. And so this 6% goal, while it may be lower in comparison with benchmarking in the industry, it's a way for us to say and to set goals that are realistically and that we can achieve. However, we understand that the aims are higher. So by 2025, we are planning and setting strategies behind to achieve a 10% goal. And a year or two from there to be right within the benchmark in the industry. Yes. So we are keeping our side into that double digit, which is between 16 and 18% as our north. We can go to the next slide. And so the way that we have approached our supplier diversity program, which is in line with the best in line and with programs that are mature, is by approaching this as a three-leg stool. We are very much in the midst of expanding our tier one expand. And as the listeners may know and understand, these are the group of companies that are certified that we are doing business with directly. We also recognize, as Mike mentioned before, sometimes it may not be the right opportunity. Sometimes the company may not be able to perform at that level. Sometimes we are already working with an existing vendor, and we may have either a loan, a midterm or a long-term agreement with a company that is providing said services. However, we may encounter companies that may be smaller, but that they may take a level of capacity. And they are ready to jump and perform. So what we are doing is building and influencing and driving the spend with our tier two vendors as well. And that's the second leg of that stool. So we recognize that there is a part we play at times, and that may be the right way of entering into the space for some of the diverse companies. And so we are working very closely with our tier two vendors, those vendors that are non-certified, but that we are in the process of rolling in language in our MSA agreements, where we are asking them to include a minimum of a spend with suppliers that are diverse, and also we are asking them to report on those activities. In the short time frame that we have had a fairly good success in establishing this relationship, again, because we understand that, number one, we want to increase the spend that we are that we have with suppliers that are diverse, and I know that there are many small businesses listening to that's the way that they see themselves in relationship with Blue Cross and Blue Shield and our sourcing and procurement team. But again, we want to ensure that we are creating multiple opportunities of engagement, and our tier two growth may be that opportunity. We are also very much so with our tier one looking at net payment. And so we understand that our payments and issues with cash flow at times are one of the biggest unsurmountable barriers that our diverse businesses face. And we have had already agree internally with our finance team to look at the net 90 and lower that to 60 or 45 if need be. Because again, we understand that some of these are the barriers that the biggest barriers that diverse businesses face. And my approach and the approach of everyone at Blue Cross is creating these opportunities that are about removing barriers. And speaking about removing barriers, the last and third leg of that stool is filled within that space. So we also understand that there may be times where that small business it may not be certified, but it can be certifiable. And so our program as I alluded before, we are looking for companies that are certified and that are certified by those third-party organizations that we have relationship with. But we also understand that sometimes small businesses that are diverse are not certified yet, or they may not understand the nuance of the process, or they may need some more additional capacity to be able to get over that challenge. And so we are carpooling up coming 2024 with some resources so that we can strengthen that leg of that stool, so that we can have some resources available to support in a small cohort of businesses, either in the process of getting certified, either in the process of increasing their own capacity so that they can show up well in the space, connecting them with resources. And those resources may be through some of the advocacy groups, such as like GNMSDC, which does a phenomenal job in providing support with small businesses, being educational, being mentorship, being attendance to the national conferences or the regional conferences. Because a lot of these space, a lot of what will allow a small business to be successful is gaining visibility. And this leg is about providing that kind of support to small businesses that are diverse. And so we believe at Blue Cross that at the end, we need to measure the spend. As I mentioned, we are aiming for 6% this year. We still have a way to go to reach the 6%. But we also believe that it's about providing these kind of opportunities to entrepreneurs that sometimes may be facing some challenges, or they don't understand the space, or they are not certified, and they don't really understand how that works. And so we want to be there as a thoughtful partner. Joanne, we can move to the next one. And so what are these advocacy groups that I have mentioned before, and some of the key partners that at least are playing a huge role for us in Rhode Island and for the program to be successful? As I mentioned, we are partners of the NMSDC and GNMSDC, which is the regional affiliate. And I cannot be more thankful to the work that they do in this space. They are one of my to-go to when passing information or sharing resources, because they really mean what they do. Another group that we have affiliation to, who certifies the women-owned businesses, is WeBank. We also have affiliations with the NGLCC and the LGBTQ plus Chamber of Commerce. As I mentioned, there are some designations provided by the Small Business Administration that we also accept as part of the program. We also have a relationship with Disability:IN, and then we also take the and accept the certifications from NVBDC and NAVOBA. In their space is related to veterans, small businesses that are owned by veterans. We also take and accept the certification that is given by the state of Rhode Island, by the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And we also have other strategic partners in the space. Our most recent and newest relationship is with the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We also have affiliation with our counterpart in Rhode Island, which is the Rhode Island Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. RIBA, which is the Rhode Island Business Black Association, and we also have relationship with some Chamber of Commerces in the state, being the Greater Providence Chamber and the Northern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce. We are also one of the founding anchor members of Supply RI, which is a state initiative in partnership with Commerce RI. which is precisely there to encourage the success of the small businesses and the diverse small businesses by connecting them with resources. We can go to the next one. And so this is sort of like a guide for you, so that an easy slide to look at. Okay, so what do I do now? How do I do business with Blue Cross? So Mike talked about those opportunities. Mike also talked about level of readiness that you as a small business and diverse small business needs to bring to the fold. And what are the do's and don'ts, right? So then now, how do you follow up from here? And so we have a vendor management system that we use, and it's called Jagger, as Mike mentioned before. And that's a system that is open and public, and you can get to it through our www.bcbsri.com. However, for suppliers that are diverse, I want to be your bridge. I want to be able to better understand who you are, and if there is a good fit, right? At times, I may be referring people to other options or alternatives because it may be that Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Rhode Island is not your place to go to do business with. And because I have built a good relationship with other partners in the space, that allows me to say, you know what, this is not a good fit, but let me refer you to this other place. That's the time also for me to talk about certification. And that's why I have included as the first step a link to my calendar, because I want you, if you're interested, if what you heard today move you as to why you want to do business with Blue Cross and how, then I want you to use that hyperlink to schedule the 30 minutes meeting with me. So that I can learn more about your company. We can discuss opportunities either in the near future or down the line. And I can get to know your certifications, or if you need support in that space. If there is a synergy in that meeting, which I hope will proceed by capability statements and information about your company, then I will be generating, which is the step 2, is the registration in the portal, in our vendor management system portal, which is Jagger. Not that you have to remember that, but you will get to know it if we continue walking together this path. And so I will be generating an invitation through the system so that you can start completing your profile in the system, and providing us through the system with the information, the pertinent information that the team needs to be able to validate the company. Once the profile is completed, and there are 7 sections in Jagger that you have to complete, we ask you to upload any certifications if you do have. Then the system, the team internally will review the information you provide against national databases to make sure that you are a legit business and that you are not placed in any don't do business list. If everything match and the team vets the profile and approve it, then you will get notification about the profile being active. At that point, it doesn't mean that there is a contract or an agreement. It means that your company is ready to do business with Blue Cross. And the way that I like to approach this is a partnership. And as Mike mentioned, communication matters and it is important. And that process that I described may take some time between when the meeting happens. Once you complete the profile, there are times if you are not familiar with the system that you may have some additional questions. We are there to support you along the way. And we will be there to make sure that you will be in the known for opportunities. as a corporation, we don't function like an RFP process in the state, where we post publicly our request for opportunities when the time comes. Companies that we see suitable and ready to perform are invited to apply. Likewise, companies that I see suitable and ready to perform could be provided as a point of reference to our tier 2 vendors, so that the two of you connect. And that speaks about the tier 2 program that I referred before. The bottom line is that this will be successful if there is a synergy, if there is a mutual gain, and we hope that we stay in touch, either to get updates from you, to update your profile, or to get to know you better. So it is about performance, it's about certification, it's about diverse businesses like you having a shot, a real shot at sourcing and procuring with Blue Cross. But it's about also compliance and reporting. And we just want to make sure that we open this space and that we are truthful to this relationship, and understanding that it's a two-way street. Joanne, we can go to the next one. And so before we jump into responding any questions that you may have, we want to make sure that you go away today with where to find those. In that Mike and I are here as a resource for you, and that I will be your sort of point of contact for scheduling those 30 minutes that I mentioned before. That hyperlink in the presentation, which I think, and Joanne can keep me honest, if I'm misspeaking, you will get this slide deck, and you will have access to the live hyperlink to my calendar. I'm sure that I will be receiving many requests in my calendar. My email box will be popping with meeting requests. I will accommodate those requests expeditiously, but please keep in mind that I'm one person, and I just want to caveat that. Be patient, and let's give each other grace. Mike, I'm not sure if there is anything that I may have missed before we jumped into the Q&A.
I think you covered it.
Joanne, I'm giving it back to you then.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just a moment, please.
And while